Whether you are big or small, having a lead onboarding process will really help you bring sanity to your life, your business, and help you gather more data, but more importantly, have a better sales experience and thus sell more. So, first and foremost, and the topic of today's Morning for Visionaries, we're going to be talking about the lead process, or at least the basics of it. So first, the question is really, what is the lead process? Then we'll get into why you need it, and then some examples of, well, how to do these things. So first, what is a lead process? Well, it's a systematized way or process or path, flow, funnel, whatever you want to call it, that you take pretty much every single lead that you have through this process. Now, this process can be 1 step long, it could be 10 steps long. It depends on you, and there is no really right or wrong answer. The reason for having this kind of process, the step by step by step flow, user experience, user journey, whatever you want to call it, the reason you want to have one of these things really is because it will help improve the user experience that you give to potential clients. Well, why? How can having this rigid process really, I'm not a robot. I don't want to give people this same exact process and things. Everybody's different. Every client's, well, to a certain extent, pretty much every single lead you'll have is more or less the same. They generally want something you're selling. They want this certain experience with you, and you have to take them through a generally pretty much the same sales process for whatever it might be. Sometimes it might take longer, especially if you sell services like we do. Sometimes the sales process could take a few days, sometimes it could take a few months, but the process is the same. So here's a quick example of more or less what ours is at a high level. Somebody gets in contact, we tell them to fill out our project form. They fill out the project form, then they schedule a call. From scheduling a call, we have the call. From the call, we can have a potential follow-up call and another potential follow-up call after that. From there, we have a mini proposal. After that, the full-on proposal walkthrough, and then the decision, yay or nay. That is our process at a very high level. There are steps in each piece. Now, you might be thinking, well, that sounds kind of rigid. Why would you push everybody through? What about somebody big? What about somebody really tiny? Well, one of the reasons for this is that big or small, somebody who is really interested in working with us or has a real big need, and we've sold them enough through our branding, through our marketing, through our relationships, they will go through this process because this process is not only to help us gather more information, it helps establish our credibility, our ability to have a good experience for people, and also, and I guess from their point of view, it is a general good experience because it sets their expectations on what they should expect, what they should not expect, what will happen next, what won't happen next. And we very clearly write this out. So there's pretty much no guessing on what's going to happen. If somebody really tiny comes to us and says, well, I want a website project for $500, we'll tell them, yeah, that's kind of teeny tiny. We can help you for a few hours for that kind of budget. But for any other project, jump to our contact form. It'll answer all your questions. So one, it reduces our load. Two, once they finally say, okay, well, fine, this is a project that I can afford, and I'm going to go forward with these guys. So they fill out our form. And through this process, they finally get to see, hey, these people know what they're doing. They are setting expectations, telling me exactly what I want to know. So the lead process thus then helps you set these expectations, helps you set up a good reputation with folks, and thus helping you systematize things. Now, because it is systematized does not mean it's inflexible. There are some steps we can always skip. Like I was saying a little bit earlier, sometimes there's one phone call, sometimes there's three, sometimes it could be a whole bunch of emails back and forth, but that's that part of that sales process, and that's okay. But the sales process still is following along and going through this experience, preset experience. The reason why is people will definitely, we'll word it this way. If you walk into your local grocery store and it has zero of what you were expecting at all, you walk into your local Trader Joe's, your local Jewel-Osco, Dominic's, whatever it might be. You walk into one of these stores and you're expecting food, and for some reason it's a party store. That's a bad experience, right? You're expecting a specific thing. So with the lead process, they expect very specific things to happen, and you're telling them what's going to happen. Now, I know I've kind of hit on this head over and over and over. So kind of going away from that. The other part is that you can now start gathering data about what's happening at each point. So for example, let's say you have 10 leads. They didn't fill out anything yet, but you know the first step, everything that everybody has to ever do is fill out the contact form or fill out the Spark project form or do this one initial step to help gather more data for you, right? And let's say out of those 10 that have shown some interest, 3 fill out the form and 2 refuse to fill out the form and just want to call, right? Well, you can start now gathering some data and saying, well, you know, there's always a trade-off for some automation, but you can start saying, well, for the people who I jumped on the phone directly, most of those people don't get sold, or most of them do get sold. You start getting this data. Or, you know, when I jump on the phone initially, I spend 3 hours just gathering basic information, which the form can do in 5 minutes. And the sales aren't any bigger than the ones through the form. So you start getting to know what's good for you, what's bad for you, and what's working in terms of not only data, what's working for you for money, but also what steps you need to take, what steps you want them to take, how you want to feel. And this kind of goes into creating a whole fun little user journey for everybody, which gets really, really fun. So what you can essentially create this is kind of going off topic, but you can create a fun little graph and table and say, hey, for each column, which is each step, you have all these rows of data points. What you need to do, what they need to do, what's the next step, what's the action step for you, what's some step for a specific team member, and do you need to call them, you need to email them, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. What page they should be on the website. You can start tracking all of these data points and seeing where things are going well, what things you need to improve, what things aren't going so well, etc. So that's that other fun piece. But you might be wondering, well, you still haven't answered how does this actually improve the user process? It improves the user process by making sure you stay sane and can deliver consistent, high quality experiences at every step of the way. So if your first step is always, for example, let's say you don't have a form. You want everybody to jump on the phone. So your steps are going to be all phone oriented. And then you can start letting people know, or you can start letting yourself and your team know that as a good experience, we need to say this up front. Then in the middle of the call, we need to say this and that to make sure these things happen. At the end of the call, we need to schedule another call. We need to send out these things. But you then start knowing what these things are going to be so that you can then start crafting these high quality experiences based upon these steps that you know work for you or don't work for you. Because if you don't know what these steps are going to be, you really don't know what any of this is you know, whatever is going to happen in the world. So you write these things down. You write down the steps, you write down the process, even at a high level, just starting out, and that's fine. And then you start saying what's working, what's not working, data for some pieces. And by the way, you don't need to be 100% strict and everything. Not everybody has to go through the form. You know, if Bill Gates comes to you and says, "Hey, work on a project with me," you're not going to tell, ultra big client to fill out a rinky-dinky little form. That's okay. But for the most part, you do want people to follow this process because it'll help you standardize things, keep you sane, keep things going, and track sales and calls. So that's the quick little tidbit of what a sales process is, or not a sales process, the lead generation onboarding process is, and some quick examples of it. Now, some real practical examples. Let's, again, go through our lead onboarding process. Now, this is our actual process. And at the high level, like I said, there's the fill out the form, we have the call, then there's the follow-up for the proposals, et cetera, high level stuff, right? Now, specifically the way we've created this form is almost always everybody has to fill out that form, and almost everybody does, with the rare exception. Now, from there, that step, if you want to call it that step, is actually kind of sort of 3 steps. First, they usually contact us, usually via email or a phone. Our goal, and if we have that columns, we know, guide them to the form. So when they get to the page with the form, they don't actually get to the form first. They get to a start page which sets expectations, letting them know what's going to happen and what they're going to have to do next. Now from there, and it sets pricing, at least for us. We like to show some base pricing up front. And from there, then they get to the form. They fill out the form, nicely styled and branded to us. From the form, they go to a scheduling page. On the scheduling page, they are highly encouraged to schedule a call with us. Why don't we schedule a call ourselves? Simply because We like the system to do it for us. It kind of eliminates the whole back and forth about what time are you available? Oh, I'm not available this time. I'm not available that time. Are you available at this time? That's way too many emails back and forth. So we let an automated system handle that part. Now, in between the next step and the step they just finished right now, we see, because we have the columns, we know what's going to happen. And the little data points. What's going to happen then is we get a notification. Somebody has filled out the form, not scheduled. Fill out the form, scheduled. Right? Either way, we get a notification. We then create a little video, usually from our phones, saying, hey, thanks for filling out the form. It's going to be awesome to talk to you on XYZ day. Or, hey, thanks for filling out the form. We noticed you didn't schedule a date yet. Is there a problem with the form? Not a problem. Let's schedule one right now. So we send them this little video message. We use a little software for that called Bonjoro. There's a few different like it. Doesn't matter which one you pick. That's just the one we use. So you use one of those. We send them a video. It has a really good response rate because people seem to like, oh my gosh, this is a really interesting high-touch experience. And people have told us that as well. And it's working well for sales, so we keep it in. Now, from there, then we have our intro call. The intro call has its own little process and steps. We take them through that. There's a whole sort of training on how to do a sales call. We do that initial sales call stuff, and from there, that's when we then say, all right, first step, if we have enough information, we can say, hey, let's do a mini proposal. Mini proposal is when we don't spend hours and hours and hours writing a proposal. We essentially do a call recap. This is generally what we thought about pricing. As we discussed, are the general steps we talked about. Is this along the lines of what you're looking for? Do you want to tweak anything? They usually say yes or no at that point. And because we don't want them to have any surprises. So from there, if they say yes, then we write out the full proposal. That's templated to a certain degree. It's essentially a glorified and formal version of the mini proposal. Not much changes. Usually it takes me between 20 minutes and an hour, depending what goes in there. From there, then you might be thinking, okay, now you just send the proposal over. Nope. Our process from there then is a very simple and fun. We do a proposal walkthrough call. We also do make, this part has, by the way, kind of a little quick tip. What works really well is we tell them this is not a sales call. Technically it is because it's, we always want to sell things, but we're not going to be really selling here. We're just walking through the proposal. Ask any questions as you want. It's as simple as that. And people really like to hear that. From there, then once we do the proposal walkthrough call, we tell them we have about 2 weeks to make a decision. After that, the proposal is not valid and we would have to redo it. So please let us know between that time. And people usually do. Some people require more, so we give them more time if it's reasonable. Sometimes not. And that's fine. And we keep moving along like this. We're always setting expectations. We're letting them know what's going to happen next. We're telling them what should happen if they choose not to reply or do anything. And that's fine. We tell them what's going to happen, what's not going to happen. And this experience has been really good in helping boost sales, move things along, keep sane, get us data, and overall have a better experience for everybody to make sure business goes forward for everybody. If you have any questions on how the sales process, the lead onboarding process works, give us a call, shoot us an email, or just message us on social media. We'll be happy to answer. We're doing some cool training about stuff like this very soon, so make sure to stay tuned. But otherwise, leave a comment below, and we'll be happy to discuss this process and show you how it works in person. Thanks. See you next time.